The wage gap between men and women has always existed. It has been an uphill battle women cannot seem to conquer. The United States is supposed to be a country where everyone, regardless of gender, race, religion, or sexual orientation, are given a fair and equal chance in life. So why is it that, according to CNBC, women are still being paid 80 cents to every dollar a man makes, getting paid less for the same job with the same qualifications, getting penalized for having children while men are being rewarded? Why does this injustice exist at all if it's been around for so long? Well, according to American Association of University of Women, AAUW, the wage gap still exists today due to occupational segregation, bias against working mothers, and direct pay discrimination. Women today are getting penalized for having children or even considering having children, while men are being rewarded for it. CNBC stated that women will commonly receive a pay cut after having a child, while men will receive what is called the fatherhood bonus. Some people may say it's only 20 cents, but that's equivalent to $10,000 a year. If we take a look at this graph created by the AAUW, women's median annual earnings compared to men's has been increasing pretty steadily since the 1960s, but recently the projected pay equality has gone from the year 2059 to 2093. This shows that the gender wage gap is still a prevalent injustice today, and if ignored, will only get worse.
We will now talk about some terms and philosophies learned in class that are connected with the injustice of the wage gap. Deontological ethics is a form of ethical reasoning in which the morality of an action is based on the action's adherence to a rule or duty. This basically means that you don't judge actions by the results, but rather by how closely it adheres to set rules. An example of how our injustice goes against this type of ethical reasoning is the Equal Employment Opportunity Act of 1972, which made it illegal for companies to discriminate against employees or potential employees based on race, color, sex, or religion. If deontological ethical thinking was used, there would be little to no employment discrimination and the wage gap would not be as prevalent as it is today. The 8 key questions are another form of ethical reasoning that are asked to evaluate the ethical dimensions of a situation. One question is about fairness, specifically, how can we act equitably and balance legitimate interests? The current workforce does not act equitably in terms of wages and positions, which further questions the ethics of the workplace. Another key question is about rights, specifically what innate social or legal rights apply. According to the Equal Pay Act of 1963, employers are required to give equal pay for equal work. This means that women have the right to be paid equally, even when holding the same positions and jobs as men. There have been many groups, movements, and laws throughout history that have attempted to deal with the issue of the wage gap between men and women. Along with the examples previously mentioned, another example of a law is the Lilly Ledbetter Fair Pay Act of 2009, which states that the time limit to file an equal pay lawsuit resets with each new paycheck. An example of a movement is the women's libertarian movement that emerged in the late 60s, which proposed socio-economic change from the political left in order to achieve equality in society.
The Equal Employment Opportunity Commission is a group that is responsible for enforcing federal laws that make it illegal to discriminate against things like race, gender, religion, age, and sexual orientation in the workplace. According to the EEOC's website, the law forbids discrimination when it comes to any aspect of employment, including hiring, firing, pay, job assignments, promotions, layoffs, training, fringe benefits, and any other term or condition of employment. This clearly states that unequal is against the law, and that in the case of this, the EEOC should have a right to intervene. Although this commission already exists, we believe that it should be responsible for a check system in order to make sure that companies are treating their employees fairly and allowing for equal opportunity. Checks would occur 2 to 3 times a year. They would go through payroll, bank records, and other documents to make sure that the company or employer is paying their male and female employees fairly and ensure that women are not being paid less based on their gender. We also believe that if there happens to be discrimination or unequal pay during those 2 to 3 checks a year, the company will be fined 7% of their yearly profits. This number is high in order to avoid unequal pay and steer companies away from this. Currently, the Commission just helps you once you have filed for discrimination. To file for discrimination, laws enforced by EEOC, except for the Equal Pay Act, require you to file a charge before you can file a lawsuit for unlawful discrimination. You can go online and use the EEOC public portal to submit an inquiry, schedule an appointment, or file a charge. You can also make an in-person appointment, which you can schedule online through the EEOC public portal, and go for a walk-in appointment. You are also able to file by phone to discuss your situation with a representative who will help you determine if your situation is covered by the laws we enforce and explain how to file a charge or send a letter with the specific information that you can find on EEOC's website.
We decided to interview Janet Reeser, an accounting manager at SI Systems, LLC, to inquire about injustices that she faces within her workplace. The first question we asked was, do you believe job inequality affects workers' motivation? Her response was yes. If a female worker puts in as many hours and works as hard as her male counterpart and has been with the company for the same amount of time only to find out that he makes more, it definitely kills motivation and can lead to a decrease in work ethic. We then asked, do you think job evaluations and job ratings are the same for both men and women? Her explanation was, legally, the evaluation process has to be the same for all employees. It's the actual evaluation that varies by manager. A 360-degree feedback is a process where you get feedback and are reviewed by colleagues and supervisors, as well as a self-evaluation and ability to review your boss or supervisor anonymously to ensure that you feel safe. Next, we questioned, do you believe pregnancy and maternity discrimination occurs in many cases? She answered with 100%. When I was pregnant and told my boss I was taking extended family leave, all he could say was, really? He could barely say congratulations. When I was on leave, there was a company-wide layoffs, and I was the only one from my department to be laid off. I had great reviews, always reliable, and never missed work. I was even more qualified than my counterpart. However, she did not have children. I believe he chose to keep her over me because I took an extended leave. I believe he felt I wouldn't be able to do my job as well or put in all the time I had in the past knowing that I had a baby. Also, we asked, was wage gap ever discussed with you at any time? She responded, never. However, as an accounting manager, I have access to employee records, so I know what everyone's salaries are, and I see their history of raises. The males predominantly make more and receive higher increases than females.